What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 147 of MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Friday, March 13th, 2026. I'm your host, Zach Malum, but before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the world of basketball and in the college game as the one-seeded St. John's Red Storm in this year's Big East tournament took on the 9-seeded Providence Friars on Thursday afternoon at Madison Square Garden, a quarterfinal matchup, and the Johnnies took this one 85-72, the final. They advanced to the semifinal against the Seton Hall Pirates tonight, and we'll get to that in just a bit, but St. John's took this game by storm early, and no pun intended on that one. They were dominant from the start. 20-5 run to start the game in just the first 8 minutes of this one. And the Johnnies were great from beyond the arc early on. They hit 7 threes on the day, but it was all about their defense and their ability to dominate down low. I think when you look at Providence and the day before that, how many threes they were able to hit against Butler. They put up over 90 points in the first round matchup against the Bulldogs, but they only hit 5 3-pointers on the day. They only shot 14 3-pointers in this game. St. John's went 7 of 27 from beyond the arc. So they hit more 3-pointers and shot almost double the amount of threes that the Friars did. I think the story of the game, though, was down low, as St. John's, their front line, has an argument for the obviously tops in the Big East, but almost tops in the country. There's not many front threes that can compete with St. John's, the talent level that they have in Bryce Hopkins, Zuby Ejiofor, and Dylan Mitchell, and they proved that in this game. 51 rebounds to just 30 on the day for the Friars, and 18 of the 51 rebounds for the Johnnies came on the offensive glass. That is just complete domination. They had 46 points in the paint to just 36 for Providence, and the Friars just did not stand a chance in this game. Great job by St. John's on the defensive side of the ball, holding Providence to just 72 points on the afternoon. Great day for the Johnnies, and they advance to the next round, the semifinal matchup. It's a tough one, and it'll take place tonight as Seton Hall, coming off of a nice win in the quarterfinal against the Creighton Blue Jays. They won that game 72-61 yesterday. A great win for Seton Hall, and they continue to run on with the Coach of the Year in the Big East in Shaheen Holloway. Maybe getting some rumors around that he may go elsewhere, but right now he looks real comfortable at Seton Hall. 21-11 on the year, 10-10 in the Big East this season. A team that was projected last in the Big East at the start of the year and came in last place in the Big East a season ago. What a turnaround by the Pirates, but they get really their toughest test of the season, and it's going to be the St. John's Red Storm who come into this game at 5:30 tonight, the semifinal matchup at Madison Square Garden, as 8.5-point favorites. Total sitting at 134.5. Johnny started out as 7.5-point favorites. The line has moved up, and St. John's looks to handle business. It is on their home floor at MSG, although it is a neutral site game for both of these teams, and they will have a fair amount of fans on both sides. When you look at Seton Hall just across the river, the Pirates fans will head out to Madison Square Garden to see this one. St. John's will draw a crowd, of course, as well. It should be a phenomenal game between these two teams. And really, when you look at the other game that they're going to be keeping an eye on as well, just after the winner of this St. John's-Seton Hall game will take on the winner of an old school Big East matchup. Georgetown, the 11 seed in the Big East this season, somehow, some way, gets to the semifinal. They beat up on DePaul a couple of days ago. They upset the 3-seeded Villanova Wildcats the next day, and now they are massive underdogs heading up against the number 6 team in the country in the UConn Huskies and the 2 seed in the Big East tournament. And UConn comes into that game 15.5-point favorites, total sitting at 137.5. This one should be complete domination, but when you look at it, Georgetown has a lot to play for right now. They are really looking to make a statement in this Big East tournament, saying maybe we could go on a run, maybe we can make it to the NCAA tournament. who knows? I mean, they proved that yesterday with a phenomenal win over, yes, a shorthanded Villanova Wildcats team, but they dominated them in the second half, 78-64. They beat up on Villanova. Of course, UConn won by 25, taking down Xavier in just a completely one-sided game at MSG last night. UConn does have some fresh legs here. Georgetown maybe not, after they used a lot of guys yesterday in a tough game over Villanova. However, this one is going to be closer than 15.5 points. I would take Georgetown in this game. It's going to be closer than you think because of Georgetown's ability to just play with no pressure. They got something to play for here because they want to finish off this season strong. But this is a team that has no pressure on them at all. Just go out and play, and whatever happens, happens. UConn, the clear favorites coming into this one, the 2 seed in the Big East tournament. It should be a great game. An old school Big East battle, Georgetown against UConn. You also got Seton Hall against St. John's. Make sure you tune in. This doubleheader will be phenomenal tonight at the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden. Thing in the world of basketball, but shifting things to the association, as the New York Knicks were in action on Wednesday evening. They were out in Utah taking on the Utah Jazz. The Knicks won this game 134-117, the final, to move to 42-25 on the year. Snaps a 2-game losing streak by the Knicks after they had a couple losses to the Lakers and the Clippers earlier in the week. A tough couple of days for this Knicks team as they went into that game against Utah, losing 3 of their last 4. A tough loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder the week before that. Then they ended up beating the Denver Nuggets in grand fashion, really. A 40-point win over Denver, and then the couple of losses back-to-back in Los Angeles against the Lakers and the Clippers, and they lost both games, 110-97 the Laker game, and then the Clipper game 126-118. Not really close and down to the wire. The Knicks just struggled overall. Karl-Anthony Towns played pretty well in all of those games, and then he brought that into this game against Utah. It was Jalen Brunson who really was the star for the Knicks, of course. Why wouldn't he be? 28 points in the game, 7 of 16 shooting, 4 3-pointers. He also had 4 rebounds, 8 assists, as well as 3 steals in the game. Then you had Karl-Anthony Towns, 21 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and he shot 8 of 13 from the field. That's exactly what you're looking for from Towns. OG Anunoby also played well in this game with 22 points in 31 minutes. A couple of rebounds and assists, a couple of steals, and a block. He had 3 3-pointers, but the biggest contributor came off the bench, and that's really been the story for this Knicks team in the last week or so, or week or two. They really have played well off the bench and gotten great contributions from their guys. Mo Diawara has another good game, but it was Jordan Clarkson who is the story. In his return to Utah, 26 minutes in the game, he had 27 points, 10 of 15 shooting from the field, 3 of 5 from beyond the arc. He was red hot for the Knicks in this game. He had 5 rebounds, 3 assists as well. So 26 minutes for him, and he had a great game in his return to Utah. A really great game for Jordan Clarkson. The Knicks overall in the starting lineup are looking for a guy in Mikal Bridges to really step up. They just haven't gotten that recently. And Landry Shamet being in the starting lineup, he's playing the big minutes down the stretch. He's the reliable 3-point shooter for the Knicks down the stretch as well, even though he only had 7 points in this game in 31 minutes. Mikal Bridges has just been horrible. 27 minutes in the game, just 5 points, 2 of 9 shooting from the field, 1 of 5 from beyond the arc. What else is this guy doing if he's not scoring? He really is just struggling in the end. He was a negative 13 plus minus in this game. To compare that to Landry Shamet, he was plus 21 in the game when he was on the floor, and Karl-Anthony Towns plus 20 on the floor. So Mikal Bridges just really struggling right now, just trying to find his footing. But the late minutes down the stretch, the big moments in the game, Mikal Bridges should not be on the floor right now for the New York Knicks. He's really been so bad in the month of March, and they have to go to a different avenue as they end up getting the win 134-117. It was really close at the end of the third quarter of this one. Knicks pulled away in the fourth, and they deservedly get the win by 17 points. But the Knicks now head into another game on the road tonight before they will finally head back home. But the Knicks first have to take on one of the worst teams in the NBA in the Indiana Pacers on the road. The Pacers are 15-51 on the year, and the Knicks are 42-25. It's a 7:30 start out in Indianapolis, and the Knicks come into this game as 13.5-point favorites, total sitting at 226.5. A big game for the Knicks to just prove the point, make it a statement type of game. It is a interesting one with some guys, game time decisions coming in. Josh Hart being one of them with a knee injury. Jeremy Sochan is dealing with an illness, so he's also a game time decision, as well as Karl Anthony Towns also dealing with a knee injury and a game time decision for tonight's 7:30 start out in Indianapolis. On the other side for Indiana, they're just hoping for something right now. Maybe they are tanking just a little bit, probably hoping to get a top pick. They got a lot of guys that are game time decisions tonight, but the Knicks should handle this one no matter who is playing, no matter who is not playing for this Knicks team. They have to handle business, and they got to make sure that they come out with a win against Indiana, who they did not come out with a win against the last time Indiana beat them on their home floor at MSG in overtime, 137-134 on February 10th. Knicks have to be better tonight, and we'll see what happens. 7:30 start. Shifting things to football as free agency is in full swing out in Florham Park in East Rutherford, New Jersey. There's been a lot of moves so far, and we start with the Jets out in Florham Park, as the Jets have made a couple of trades that will blow your mind when you think back just a couple of years ago. The first big trade, they make one with the Las Vegas Raiders. They get back Geno Smith, the quarterback from the Jets all those years ago, 2013 to 2016. Drafted by the Jets, he is back for another stint. And they also trade for safety Minkah Fitzpatrick from the Miami Dolphins. They also give Minkah a 3-year, $40 million deal on top of it. And that's a big signing for the Jets. They add Minkah, the leadership that he has at safety. It hasn't been a great couple of years, but a guy who really still has it as a back-end safety. And that's going to be a huge key for this Jets defense, a 3-4 defense now with Aaron Glenn calling the plays. He also adds some beef on the defensive line and in the linebacker room. I start with the big one in the linebacker room. It is Demario Davis, who returns for a third stint with the New York Jets, a team that he was drafted by back in 2012. He gets a 2-year, $22 million deal with $15 million guaranteed. I know he's 37 years old, but this guy has definitely still got it. He's got a lot of runs still left, and when you pair him with another strong linebacker in Jamie and Sherwood, the Jets should be in really good shape in their linebacker room. Need a couple more guys, but they're looking pretty good so far with those two guys in Davis and Sherwood. Like I said, beef up on the defensive line. And when you add Joseph Asai to a 3-year, $34.5 million deal, you also add David Onyemata, the defensive tackle from the Atlanta Falcons last year, 6'4", 310, and he's going to be a huge impact. 1 year, $10.5 million. That's a big time signing for the Jets, and a guy that they think can be really something so far for this upcoming season, especially on the run defense, where that's really where the Jets struggled last year in the run game. Contain the run, try and stop a team from being able to have third and short. I think the Jets have really struggled with that in years past, and they're trying to really bounce back from that. They also add Kingsley Enagbari from the Green Bay Packers as well. They give him a 1-year deal worth $10 million. They also add some more guys in the secondary, and I talked about Minkah Fitzpatrick already. You had Dane Belton from the New York Giants, a guy who forced a lot of fumbles, a great guy in terms of stopping the run. You also have Nashawn Wright, who has really all he did was pick balls last year. 5 interceptions. That was tied for second most in all of football, and you add him to a secondary that you lost Sauce Gardner, of course, traded him away. You still have Brandon Stevens around, and you got some more guys to really rely on in that Jets corner room. I think when you look at it, the Jets need a couple more guys, especially at linebacker, I talked about already, and adding some key pieces. But when you look at it, the linebacker, number 2 overall pick, if you add Arvell Reese, you add the edge rusher and David Bailey, whichever one it is, you are adding a linebacker that can help you out on the defensive line. Also a guy in Arvell Reese that that can really help you off the ball. And I think that's going to be very important for the Jets heading into draft season. Continue to add guys to this defense, a defense that was absolutely woeful a season ago. When you look at the offensive line, though, Dylan Parham, a left guard from the Raiders last year, 2-year, $16 million deal. They try to beef up the offensive line. They lost a couple of guys. John Simpson went back with the Ravens. They also have Elijah Vera Tucker, who wanted a fresh start. Of course, he went to the worst team possible that you could think of as a Jet fan, and he goes to New England to play for the New England Patriots. So not a great sign there. That one hurt just a little bit with AVT, a guy who just could not stay healthy and could have been really something with this Jets team if he did stay healthy. Of course, injuries caught up with him early on in his career, and he was looking for a fresh start. He got one. He's up in New England now with the New England Patriots. So the Jets still have a lot more to do. Of course, they're looking towards draft season as well. I talked about the linebacker position. If they solve that, they got a defense that can really wreck some games, and I think that's what they're looking for this upcoming season. Not really relying too much on this offense to do too much. Geno Smith going to be at quarterback for the Jets, and he can pass the ball. You've seen that. It's a different Geno from the Geno Smith back in 2013 when he first got drafted, really struggling to keep the ball in his hands. It's a much different Geno Smith now, a guy who can really throw the ball anywhere you want, and that's what the Jets need after they had Justin Fields throwing the ball to really nobody last year. He was really struggling at the quarterback position, and it's time for a fresh start. Geno Smith back with the Jets as they look for a successful type of season heading into 2026. Out in East Rutherford, though, the Giants have also made a fair amount of moves so far this free agency period, and their first one with John Harbaugh as the Giants head coach, and he makes a couple moves to start that you're probably expecting. Isaiah Likely, the tight end from the Baltimore Ravens, he joins Harbaugh in New York, a 3-year deal for the Giants' new tight end. A lot of 12 personnel expected for the Giants this season. Isaiah Likely, Theo Johnson, both on the roster, and that's something that you're looking for this Giants offense. Really, the scheme is going to be changed from what it was a season ago with Brian Daboll as the head coach. John Harbaugh likes it a different way, and the Giants lose out on Wan'Dale Robinson, the wide receiver who goes to the Tennessee Titans on a monster deal that probably the Giants were not interested in paying him. They end up getting Isaiah Likely to almost fill the loss of wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson. Of course, not enough just yet. They probably still need to add some more to their wide receiver room, although they did add another wide receiver in Calvin Austin, who they gave a 1-year deal worth up to $4.5 million. They also bring back Isaiah Hodgins on a short-term deal as well. Then you have the rest of the room. The offensive line was a big worrying sign for the Giants in terms of free agency. They end up bringing back Jermaine Illuminor, a great deal for the Giants. They re-signed him for another 3 years. And I think when you look at Joe Schoen and the era of Joe Schoen, a big-time deal was back in 2024 when he brought in Jermaine Illuminor, and he's a standout tackle right now next to Andrew Thomas on the other side. I think that's what you're looking for this Giants team, is their ability to run the ball, unlike what they were able to do last year with a offensive line that was struggling just a bit. When Jackson Dart was healthy, of course, as well as Cam Scatterbo, that's what the Giants were looking to do, is run the ball and get this offense rolling and not be in third and long situations where Dart would have to roll out of the pocket and throw the ball, and ultimately a couple of turnovers really hurt him. You end up having Cam Scatterbo probably coming back early on in the season, and you have 2 tackles in Illuminor as well as Andrew Thomas to really protect Jackson Dart as well as Cam Scatterbo in the backfield. So a big-time deal for the Giants. They also add some guys on the defensive side of the ball in Tremaine Edmonds, and he's replacing the recently released Bobby Okereke. You bring in Tremaine Edmonds. Hasn't been a great stretch for him out in Chicago, but he gets a 3-year deal from the Giants. So hopefully trying to change what the last couple of years, a struggle, and what it's been out in Chicago. John Harbaugh just trying to change that and trying to get him back to normal. Greg Newsome, another guy who just has not been the same player that he was when he was drafted as a first-round pick by the Cleveland Browns back in 2022. A couple of flashes in the first couple of seasons in the NFL for him, but the past 2 years have been really bad. He ended up getting traded to the Jaguars last year as well. So trying to rebound on him and trying to have a bounce back year, Greg Newsome is, with a new system out in New York. So the Giants continue to add. I really like what they've done so far. Just some short-term deals, replacing some guys, also beefing up the offensive line. The stunning deal that Evan Neal is back on just a 1-year deal, so everybody relax just a second. Of course, not many envisioned him returning to the Giants and being back in New York after a couple of comments and some really sluggish years, you would say, as a first-round pick back in 2022. But he is back, and hopefully John Harbaugh can get something out of him as another tackle for the Giants on this offensive line. So the Giants still some more work to do, and they continue to add guys, but bringing guys in from Baltimore and that really talented offense that they had last year could be a good sign for this Giants team. Continue to add as well as look towards the draft. It should be a good stretch now for the Giants as they look towards the NFL draft. A couple of picks early on, and we'll see what happens. But the Giants really doing a good job so far in free agency. The Jets doing a good job as well. And we'll see what happens out in Florham Park in East Rutherford, New Jersey in the next couple of weeks as we look towards the 2026 NFL Draft. Let's finish things off today in the world of hockey, as on the island, the New York Islanders are back home for the first time in a couple of weeks. They take on the Los Angeles Kings tonight at UBS Arena, a 7 o'clock start between the Islanders and the Kings. Islanders coming off a couple of wins on the road in overtime. They win the first one on Saturday out in San Jose to finish off the West Coast type of trip against Anaheim, Los Angeles, and San Jose. They end up winning in overtime 2-1 against the Sharks. Bo Horvat gets the overtime winner for New York. And then a couple of days later, they go out to St. Louis to take on the St. Louis Blues. It did not start off well for this Islanders team. They're down 3-0 middle of the second period, but they come all the way back. 3 goals, 2 of them coming in just a minute in the third period, with Callum Ritchie, Bo Horvat both scoring on the power play. And it was Matthew Barzal who won it in overtime, giving the Islanders a 4-3 victory. And the Islanders moved to 10-0 on the year in overtime. They have been so good, especially recently. 5 wins, and the Islanders have had they've won 7 of the last 9 games, and 5 of those games have been wins in overtime. A phenomenal stretch for this Islanders team. Of course, you would like it to be a little less stressful when you win a game. However, the Islanders continue to find ways to win, especially in the overtime period, and they got another couple of wins to finish off that West Coast trip before they come home. It's a back-to-back tonight and tomorrow. The Kings and the Flames, a couple of games that the Islanders probably should win. Of course, Los Angeles has a couple of injuries so far this season, and not the same team that they were expected to be at the start of the year. They are playing somewhat well right now, and of course they beat the Islanders just last week. They really crushed the Islanders. 5-3 was the final, but they really took down the Islanders in big fashion. But a tough game tonight against the Kings team, just trying to boost themselves into a playoff spot. And Calgary, a team that has really struggled so far this season. The Islanders should win that game pretty easily tomorrow night as they take on the Flames at UBS Arena. So the Islanders home for a back-to-back. First time in a couple of weeks you see the Islanders back on the island before they head back onto the road, and they have 3 games up in Canada. Pretty close by, though, with Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal on the calendar next week. So we'll see what happens, but make sure you tune in tonight and tomorrow night. The Islanders take on the Kings and the Flames at UBS Arena. But that will do it for episode 147 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malum, and thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Tuesday.